Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello, and welcome to the March 8th edition of Basis Loaded with Joe Schmit. I am your host, Joe Schmit, and this episode is produced by Paige Driscoll. We are approaching 12 hours of daylight here in the upper Midwest. What better way to celebrate than with the latest NDPSR report? Starting with butter, this butter number coming in at $244.19 is a really nice price. That's a plus 5 to the CME 1-week average of $239.25. We traded only one contract at the CME that week, so not a lot to pull basis down. Plus 5 is more than twice our expected basis. So the manufacturer was able to call a higher than expected price, and at that level was able to move north of 4 million pounds. 4.108 to be exact. So big volume in butter on a higher than expected basis. In cheese, more of the same. This block number coming in at 194.24 is a plus 6 to the CME 1-week average of 188.05. So again, light volume at the CME on blocks, only 6 loads changing hands at the CME. Here on the NDPSR, lighter than expected volume as well, failing to reach our 12.5 million pound threshold, only able to clear 12,168,736. So lower than expected volume. This basis, as we've been tracking all year, continuing to run at higher than expected levels, coming in plus 6 this week. It looks like forward sales out of the manufacturer are calling a higher than historical premium this year. Plus 5 to 6 seems to be the new ballpark, similar to barrels. We'll keep an eye on it in the weeks to come. Speaking of barrels, 162.02, also a plus 6 to the CME 2-week average of 156.25. Now that was the low week at the CME when using the 2-week averages. And over the course of those 2 weeks, we averaged 41 loads per week. So massive volume at the CME on barrels. That big outsized volume at the CME translates here to the NDPSR with the weekly total at 15,897,000 pounds. So just huge volume on the NDPSR at a plus 6. As I said, this was a low 2-week average. Typically, you would expect higher than normal basis on the low week, but when we have all this volume trading at the CME at, that price minus freight, you would expect that basis to contract somewhat. Well, we had higher than expected basis for one factor. You could expect lower than normal basis for another factor, and it came out just as expected, plus 6, right along historical lines. So a pretty impressive week in the barrel that at the low of the range, they were able to call a plus 6 positive basis and move big weight. In whey, 40.86. That represents a minus 3 to the CME 1-week average of 43.90. So negative basis in whey versus the benchmark of the CME. However, in whey, we always like to look at the February 18th number of 39.90. So the manufacturer was able to call almost a penny over prior week's NDPSR, and at that premium basis versus the prior week's NDPSR was able to move once again for the second week in a row north of 7 million pounds. So I would say that this is an impressive basis. And our February 11th and February 18th NDPSR number of 39.90 appears to be the low. Now we've had consecutive 3 higher sessions. Well, 1 steady session and 2 higher sessions. Kind of feels like a trend and feels like the whey complex, at least on the NDPSR, carving out a bottom. Lastly, non-fat, 120.16. That's a minus 3 to the CME 1-week average of 123.20. We traded 9 loads on the CME. So probably a little more than normal volume on the CME. However, on the NDPSR, Bam, 31,480. Just a massive weekly volume on the NDPSR, 50% higher than our expected 20 million pounds. So the manufacturer was able to move a lot of weight, however, had to discount in order to get it gone. So this is week 1 of 5 for the March pricing cycle. Currently getting March Class 3 1760 with a March Class 4 of 1805. Class 4 still calling a premium to Class 3. We'll see what they have in store for us in the weeks to come. On behalf of Paige and the entire Ever Ag Insights team, I am Joe. Thanks so much. See you next week. Bye.